If I told you that you could become rich in 41 days, you probably wouldn't believe me. That's because you've always been led to believe that wealth is a matter of luck, coincidence, a lottery, or perhaps destiny. But just wait. Why not 30 days? Why not 40 days? Why exactly 41 days? In many cultures, the number 40 holds a special significance. For example, in our culture, the 40th day marks the end of mourning after a death. Mourning lasts 40 days. The mother's confinement period ends after 40 days. In fairy tales, weddings last 40 days and 40 nights. It is said that if you repeat something 40 times, it will come true. The number 40 is a threshold, a transition, an opening of a gate. It's a period of transition from one state to another. And the 41st day, the one that follows the completion of 40, that is, 41 kere mashallah, may God protect you 41 times, is the sealing of the new identity. 40 is the process of transformation. 41 is the stamp of permanence. Now let's face this reality. There are people who want to be rich, but whose lives haven't changed in 40 years. People who have dreamed, sighed, envied, and waited for 40 years, but have not taken action or transformed their minds. This is why it's actually tragicomic that someone who has dreamed for a lifetime and achieved no results finds it difficult to implement something that could genuinely change their life for 41 days. People desire wealth, but they flee from the mindset transformation that wealth requires, because the hardest battle is the one a person wages against their own inner voice. The claim of this video is simple. You don't need to chase money because money flees from those who force it and goes to those who are self-assured. Rich people don't think this way because they are rich. On the contrary, they are rich because they think this way. Wealth is an outcome. What produces the outcome is the mind. If your mind is poor, you can't hold on to money even if you get it. If your mind is rich, you will rebuild everything, even if you start from scratch, because wealth is not in the wallet, it's in the head. In this video, I won't tell you a fairy tale. I won't say think positive and the universe will send it. On the contrary, today we will reveal the real mechanisms that determine the trajectory of your life. We will discuss the scientific basis of wealth, mental identity construction, behavioral change, and the neurological, not mystical, aspect of the law of attraction. When you change how you see yourself, how you see the world changes. When how you see the world changes, your behaviors change. When your behaviors change, your results change. Wealth is born from here. Those who watch this video to the end will learn how to break the poverty cycle in the brain and shift to the wealth frequency through 6 steps that they will implement for 41 days. This is not a motivational speech. This is the reconstruction of identity. It is the process of silencing that inner voice that has told you for years, I can't do it. It's too hard for me. This is my destiny. And replacing it with a voice that says, I deserve it. I can do it. I attract abundance and prosperity. If you're ready, before we move on to the 6 steps that will change your whole life, let's understand the mental difference between the rich and the poor. If we don't know these things, we cannot initiate transformation. Wealth and poverty are not measured by the numbers in bank accounts, as most people assume. Why is it that 2 people who grew up in the same neighborhood, received the same education, and even did the same jobs, end up with one rising over the years while the other stays in the same place? The answer is very simple. They both live in the same world, but they reside in different mental universes. Poverty is not a material condition, but a way of thinking. The poor mind perceives life as a continuous story of struggle, scarcity, and inadequacy. I don't have money because life is hard, because I'm unlucky, because others are more privileged. The poor mind surrenders its energy to baseless excuses and external forces. That person is defeated before they even begin, because the inner voice constantly tells them, stay small. In the rich mind, the world looks different. The rich do not succeed because they acquired money. They already have the identity of, I can do it, I will grow, I will find a way, in their minds. This identity unlocks the ability to see opportunity. For the rich person, money is not a goal, it is a natural result. The poor person chases money. The more they chase, the more money flees. The rich person, on the other hand, grows themselves. They improve their skills, expand their perception, and money naturally flows towards them. Because money goes to the person who is confident and knows what they are doing. Here is the most striking difference. The poor mind is driven by fear. The fear of losing, the fear of failing, the fear of being shamed. That's why they don't take action. That's why they wait. That's why they say tomorrow their whole lives. The rich mind, on the other hand, acts on possibility. They don't think, what if I fail, but what if it works? This thought changes behavior. When behavior changes, results change. When results change, life changes. Therefore, wealth is not fate, but an internal positioning. Wherever you place yourself, life responds to you from there. That is why what we want to do for 41 days is not to fill your wallet with money, it is to uproot poverty from your mind.
Because when the mind becomes rich, your behaviors will change automatically. You will start noticing opportunities. Your relationships will transform. Even the way you express yourself will change. It is at that point that money will come to you naturally. You will no longer chase it, you will attract it. Would you like to hear something very surprising? Actually, none of our battles are with the outside world. The greatest struggles of human life do not occur on the street, at work, or with people, but within one's own mind. Because what we call the world first takes shape in our minds, then it manifests outside. If your mind is dragging you down, it is impossible for you to rise in the outside world. But if you learn to use it not as an enemy, but as an ally, that is when the flow of life begins to change. So let's understand how our mind works now. We say wealth begins in the mind, but how exactly does this mind work? Without understanding this, no transformation can be permanent. The human mind cannot distinguish between reality and imagination. This is a scientifically proven fact. The brain processes something it imagines experiencing and something it truly experiences through the same neural pathways. For example, imagine you have a lemon in your hand. Imagine cutting the lemon in half and touching it to your tongue. When that sour taste comes to mind, your salivary secretion automatically increases. Yet there is no actual lemon present. The body only reacts to what the mind believes. This is why thoughts like, I don't have money, life is hard, conditions are bad, I'm unlucky, are recorded in your brain as truth. The brain accepts this as reality and builds your entire perception system on scarcity. A mind built on scarcity does not see opportunities. It cannot even notice an opportunity even if it passes by the door countless times, because the mind only looks for the story it believes in and selects the details that confirm it. Poverty begins exactly here, not as an economic condition, but as a story the mind tells itself. The rich mind, however, has a completely different perceptual model. Rich people think, I can do it, I can learn, I can find a solution. This mindset opens the brain's field of possibilities. A mind operating in the field of possibilities selects new paths, connections, opportunities, and probabilities like a radar. The same city, the same street, the same life, but a completely different destiny. Because destiny is not determined by external circumstances. It is determined by how the mind sees the world. That is why what we will do for 41 days is not to teach you to act rich. It is to ensure that your brain accepts the wealth identity as a genuine self. Because behavior does not change without identity change. Results do not change without behavior change. Life does not change without results change. And if you want to attract wealth into your life, you must first abandon the identity of deprivation in your mind and build the identity of abundance in its place. Now we come to the critical point. The 6 steps we will explain in a moment will change your life not from the outside, but from the inside. These steps will not tell you what to do, they will construct who you will become. If you're ready, the transformation is beginning now. The first step is to release fear. The road to wealth doesn't start with money, it starts with courage. Because fear keeps a person away not only from abundance, but also from opportunity, growth, and transformation. Fear narrows your mind, shortens your field of vision. When fear is present, a person only sees dangers. The window that looks out onto opportunities closes. The first common characteristic of rich people is not knowing about money, but being able to manage fear. It's not about getting rid of fear entirely, but not allowing fear to direct you. Because fear is the strongest brake system on the mind. If a voice inside you constantly says, "What if it doesn't work out?" that voice is the first handcuff that chains you to your current life. When a person feels worthless, they assume they have lost before they even start. Someone who tells themselves, "I can't do it," gives up even if they could. This is where the mind self-sabotages. The scientific name for this is self-efficacy belief. That is, the sentence, "I can do it," or "I can't do it," precedes the result. If your mind constantly tells you, "Don't take risks, you'll make a mistake, you'll be shamed, you'll lose," then your scope of action narrows. Your life turns into a safe but vicious cycle. Releasing fear is not a show of courage. It is declaring your loyalty to yourself. It is no longer allowing the voice that constantly stops you to decide on your behalf. Seneca says, "There is no man more cowardly than the one who prefers to hang in suspense forever rather than fall once." Because falling makes a person progress. Mistakes mature a person. But hanging in the same spot forever is living in an invisible prison. Fear keeps a person alive, but does not allow them to grow. Now, ask yourself this question clearly. What is the thing that scares you the most about money in your life? Is it not being able to earn money? Making the wrong decision? Losing? Being criticized? Thinking you don't deserve success? The answer to this question is the name of the chain that has kept you in the same place for years. The first step of the 41-day transformation journey is to make this fear visible and weaken its power over you. Because the mind is a slave to the emotion it is unaware of. It can be the master of the emotion it is aware of. The moment you say to yourself, "I am afraid, and yet I choose to move forward," your identity begins to change. Wealth follows this, because wealth never comes to a mind ruled by fear. To deepen this process, set aside just 5 minutes every day for 41 days. Close your eyes in a calm place and slowly regulate your breathing. Then, imagine yourself as a self that fear cannot stop. Observe how you walk, talk, the relationships you build with people, and the rhythm of your breath. Instead of watching this scene from the outside, step into it. Allow your body to carry this new state. Let your shoulders be more open, your gaze clearer, your breath wider. Finally, place your right hand over your heart and anchor this feeling, because the mind records not only what you think, but also how your body holds itself. This exercise is the first conscious step taken not from the shadow of fear, but towards your own center. At the end of 41 days, you will notice a self ready for action slowly strengthening within you.
The second step is to visualize wealth in the mind. A person's reality is formed first in their mind, not outside, because the mind is the main command center for the body and behaviors.
The more you feel something is possible and already accomplished in your mind, the more your body, emotions, and decision-making mechanisms begin to align in that direction. The brain has difficulty distinguishing between reality and imagination. Therefore, if you genuinely feel the emotion of something while imagining it, the mind generates an internal acceptance that it has happened. This acceptance is the first step in changing the flow of life. That is why wealth begins not with the question, how do I earn money, but with the question, how does the identity of wealth reside in my mind? Someone who sees themselves as powerless, inadequate, or unlucky cannot use even the greatest opportunity that comes their way. Because if the mind doesn't believe it possesses something, it cannot hold on to it. It doesn't reject wealth, but it lacks the internal structure to sustain it. In contrast, a person who has positioned themselves as worthy and deserving will find a way, even in the midst of scarcity. Because internal identity shapes external circumstances. It is the identity radiating from within, not the wealth coming from outside, that is the determinant. What we call attraction is not a mystical secret. It is the alignment of the mind, emotion, and behavior on the same line. You become what you feel. When you become that, life flows in that direction. As Marcus Aurelius said, the life of a man is what his thoughts make of it. Whatever identity the mind carries inside, the outside world produces the reflection of that identity. Now we will make this concrete. For 41 days, every morning for only 3 minutes, you will imagine yourself in your wealth identity. This is not about conjuring luxury scenes, but about observing the effect of self-confidence on the body. Observe yourself with these questions. How does a rich person speak? How do they breathe? What kind of clarity is there in their walk? How calm are they when making decisions? What kind of posture do they display in their relationships with people? What is important here is not the image, but the feeling. Because identity begins to be established in emotion before thought. The mind records the body's posture and the rhythm of the breath as the sign of identity. After a while, the feeling will emerge, not of doing this as if, but I am this. Wealth is not something that comes from outside in. The result in the outside world is the natural reflection of the identity built in the mind and body. Therefore, the second step is not role-playing, but rebuilding the identity from within. When the self within you changes, your behaviors change. When your behaviors change, the results change. When the results change, life changes direction and transformation begins right here. The third step is to live process-oriented. What determines the path to wealth is the process, not the results. When a person sets out saying, I will be rich, and directs all their attention to the result, they unknowingly keep themselves in a constant state of scarcity and haste. Because the result is not completely under a person's control. Economy, timing, circumstances, and other people are external factors. A mind focused on external factors inevitably generates anxiety. That's why most people cannot sustain the goal they started. They look at the result, magnify the burden of the path, and get tired and give up. However, the real difference with rich people is that they focus their attention on the process. They don't aim for money. They develop their skills, mindsets, and mastery a little more every day. Money is a natural consequence of this mastery. The words of Marcus Aurelius are guiding at this point. The value of an action is in the action itself, not in the result. This saying is not just advice, but the key to mental freedom. A person who focuses on the action itself saves their mind from being tossed between the regrets of the past and the anxieties of the future. The present deepens. When the mind asks, what did I add to myself today, instead of how much did I earn, the behavior takes root. When growth takes root, the result comes naturally. Think of it as a journey of mastery. A carpenter would never become a master if they worked by thinking about how much each piece they made would sell for. What made them a master was their dedication to making every measurement, every touch, every detail a little better than the one before. A mind dedicated to the process generates power independent of the result. Rich people possess exactly this power. They don't seek opportunities. Opportunities are attracted to their continuity. Because life opens up to those who inspire confidence, and confidence is born from consistency. Now apply this to the 41-day transformation journey. Just one small step every day. Small but continuous. Reading a page, developing a skill for 10 minutes, writing down a thought, generating an idea, or taking a communication step. These small steps send a silent but powerful message to the mind. I am progressing. I am doing it. I carry this identity. When the mind receives this message every day, the identity becomes fixed. The fixed identity makes behaviors natural. When behaviors become natural, wealth is no longer a goal, but an accustomed reality. Wealth is built not by big leaps, but by the continuity of small steps. This continuity strengthens the identity. When the identity strengthens, the direction of life
is learning
changes
to see
automatically.
opportunities. Opportunities exist in everyone's life. In fact, they appear almost every day. But most people either don't notice these opportunities at all or don't take them seriously even if they do. Because seeing opportunities is related to the openness of the mind, not the outside world. The real obstacle in a person's life is often not financial inadequacy, but a lack of awareness. The poor mind focuses on scarcity. The inner monologue like, "No, it won't happen. I can't do it," closes the person's perception. When the mind constantly looks through the window of scarcity, it labels the possibility in front of it as a danger, risk, or potential loss. Thus, the person walks past the door right in front of them without even seeing it as a door. In the rich mind, perception is fundamentally different. Rich people see the world as a field full of alternatives. In their view, no path is completely closed. Every dead end points to another direction. A communication breakdown is not a failure, but a situation where the method needs to be readjusted. A lack of skill is not an obstacle, but an opportunity to learn. The essence of being able to see opportunities is exactly this. The world is not closed against you. It is just not yet open. As Epictetus said, it is not things that annoy us, but our thoughts about those things. That is, the real obstacle is not outside, but in how we see the world. Opportunities appear most to those who are prepared. Being prepared does not require extensive education, titles, high capital, or extraordinary talents. Preparation is having an open attention. If your attention is open, every interaction you have starts to produce meaning. A conversation can turn into a new connection. An idea can launch a project. A mistake can show you your direction. Often, the opportunity that changes life is within a small sign that no one else noticed. However, to see this, the mind needs to look from possibility, not scarcity. That is why the exercise you will do during the 41-day transformation process is simple but profound. Keep one awareness journal entry every day. Note any situation, word, person, or feeling you encountered that day as a possibility that could influence the course of your life. Instead of dismissing it as an ordinary moment, record it by thinking, "This could be a door." The mind cares about what it names. The more it cares, the more it starts to see. As it starts to see, it takes action. After a while, you will notice your perspective changing automatically. You will live in the same city, among the same people, but the world will start to look like a completely different place. Because true transformation happens inside, not outside. Wealth does not come to those who wait to be lucky, but to those who learn to see opportunity. And those who can see opportunity are no longer passive, but active in life. The fifth step is to balance the energy of abundance and abandon the state of neediness. The greatest obstacle to wealth may seem to be a lack of money, but the situation is completely different. The real obstacle is the state of neediness that has settled into the mind. Neediness is a state of mind that internally begs, whatever happens, just let it be, let it come somehow. This state causes the person to position themselves as lacking, inadequate, and powerless. As neediness grows, the mind begins to wait for a savior from the outside. In such a mind, decisions are hurried, steps are contradictory, relationships are dominated by clinging and the fear of losing. The energy of neediness is not like a magnet. On the contrary, it repels money and opportunities, because how a person defines themselves is reflected back by life. In contrast, the state of abundance is an internal fullness independent of having or not having. Abundance is born from the feeling, I am valuable and I deserve it. A person with an abundance mindset feels secure even when they don't yet have money, because they see wealth not as a reward given from the outside, but as a natural result of a capacity already existing within them. Such a mind does not rush, does not panic, and does not need the approval of others. Decisions are clearer, behaviors are calmer. This calmness opens up space in the flow of life. As Seneca said, he is poor who has too little, not he who desires more. That is, the feeling of scarcity is born not from external conditions, but from the mind's attitude. The fundamental transformation at this point is this: money does not bring wealth. The feeling of wealth brings money. When the feeling of completeness arises within, behaviors naturally transform into those of a self-respecting person. A self-respecting person does not belittle themselves in their speech, job choices, or relationships. This posture is the necessary ground for abundance to be attracted to them. Now, let's put this into practice. For 41 days, periodically ask yourself this question every day. Am I currently in a state of abundance or scarcity? If you catch yourself in a moment of scarcity, stop immediately. Deepen your breath, slightly open your chest and shoulders, soften your gaze. The reason we do this is that when the body expands, the mind also expands. When the mind expands, the emotional state is balanced. The abundant state is not a sentence, it is a posture. That posture is carried to the mind through the body. The goal of this step is to stop chasing money, because what flees always distances the one who chases. Money, opportunity, and relationships naturally flow to the person who is full, complete, and stands in their center. Life responds to the rhythm of internal fullness.
The sixth step is to make a promise to yourself and be someone who keeps their word. This final step of the journey is where the deepest transformation takes place. Up until now, you have repositioned your mind. You have built your identity. You have committed to the process. You have learned to see opportunities, and you have shifted to a state of abundance. However, for all these steps to turn into a permanent transformation, an internal seal is required. Being faithful to the promise you make to yourself. Because wealth is fundamentally built on self-discipline. And self-discipline is formed not by external pressure, but by a person's respect for themselves. When a person makes a promise to themselves and does not keep it, a small crack forms in the mind. As this crack is repeated, the person loses their internal authority. The sentence, "I can do it," loses its credibility. Deep down, the mind records the information, "I cannot trust myself." This silent breakage weakens the identity from within. A person with damaged self-confidence can neither see opportunities nor sustain the process, nor carry the state of abundance. The secret power of rich people is not hard work. It is that they do what they promise, not when they are tired, not when they don't feel like it, not when conditions change, but simply because they promised. Epictetus's words guide us at this point. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. That is, identity is a decision, and destiny is the result of that decision. Therefore, the final step of the 41-day transformation process is to make a silent and irreversible promise to yourself. This promise does not have to be shared with anyone. This promise is solely between you and your heart. Close your eyes and clearly say from within,
I choose this transformation. I am loyal to myself. I am building my own reality with every step. And then, for 41 days, you do not break this promise. No excuses, no postponement, no tomorrow. Because these 41 days will be the concrete proof of your commitment to yourself. The core of the entire transformation is formed here. You released fear. You built identity. You committed to the process. You learned to see opportunities. And you have shifted to a state of abundance. And now you choose to be loyal to yourself. This is the true center of wealth. Money, success, freedom, and peace are the natural and inevitable results of this. You will not be the same person after 41 days, because you now have a mind that doesn't let itself down, and such a mind can build anything it desires in life. You now know clearly. Wealth is not a matter of luck. It is not a share given from the outside, a reward stumbled upon by chance, or a secret privilege belonging to certain people. Wealth begins in the inner world of the mind. When the perspective, posture, decision-making capacity, and sense of identity change, the flow of life changes automatically. When you reposition your mind, the world starts to look different to you, because you are no longer the old you. You are no longer passive. You are now a consciousness that directs, not waits. 41 days may sound like a short time, but these 41 days are powerful enough to change the direction of a lifetime. This work is about a potential that has been delayed for years, making space for itself. What is important is not the length of the period, but how you treat your identity during that period. The moment a person decides to truly own themselves, the transformation has begun. Now I only ask one thing of you: to promise yourself that you will implement these 6 steps for 41 days. This promise is yours, not for others. No one needs to hear it. You don't need to prove it. This is a silent and deep agreement made between you and yourself, because the real issue is this: a person who can keep their word can build everything they desire in life, step by step. There is one last step. Just write, "I start today," in the comments. This is not an announcement. This is a declaration of identity, a seal within yourself. You will not be the same person after 41 days, because you now have a mind that doesn't let itself down, and such a mind can build anything it desires in life. Wealth is not in the wallet, it begins in the mind, and when your mind changes, your life changes too. Thank you for watching.